Here we go, everyone. This is Formula One. Incredible! What a move! Chaos. And he's done it!
It's a moment I will never ever forget.
We tried to tell you that the Red Bull Ring is known for putting on a great Grand Prix, and boy, were we treated to just that this afternoon. Less than 2 seconds covered the top 3 cars after 71 laps, and it was, of course, pole sitter George Russell, who took his 2nd win of the season, 7th of his career, and 2nd here in Austria. It was a Mercedes 1-3 with Kimi Antonelli, split rather unexpectedly by Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Hello everybody and welcome to your F1 TV post-race show from just outside the garage of the winning team and constructor. Guys, this was a thrilling race from start to finish. Those first few laps, Juan, again, you've raced here in Formula One, you've been part of that madness. It was so impressive, some of the side-by-side battles that we were seeing.
Yes, and as you can see, one of the harder things is when you're racing somebody, you open the door for a third car. And Max did an amazing job taking advantage of it. Kimi made a mistake. Turn one, I thought Kimi was kind of clever to miss the corner and say, you know, stay out of trouble. And then he went too deep into turn 3, and it really cost him the position to Max, you know, trying to attack Charles, trying to be aggressive, and it backfired a little bit.
And that's just it, Alex. In these situations where you have that opportunity to switch back from the driver's seat, how difficult is it to try to plan 2 corners ahead and make sure that your pass sticks?
Well, as the race got going, we saw how aggressive the energy games were between the drivers when they were racing wheel to wheel. But all of that's playing out in a 3-dimensional way at the first lap of the race. That moment for Kimi, though, one of 2, I think, that cost him actually a shot at the win today. He was really struggling with the brakes, just as Bradley Lord told us on F1 TV that some cars might before the beginning of the Grand Prix to get the right temperature management.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, look, in case you're just joining us or missed any of the race, let's take a look back at how the 71 laps of the Austrian Grand Prix played out.
The Austrian Grand Prix is underway. It's a decent launch off the line for Charles Leclerc, but George Russell chops across, maintains the lead, but that won't be an ideal exit out of turn number 1. Could he be vulnerable to the Scarlet Ferrari? Antonelli was off the road at turn 1 but rejoins. In 4th place, it's George Russell who leads, then it's Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen did get off the line, but he's under major pressure to the inside from Lando Norris. Whoa, turn 9, you don't often see that. Late lunge and a chance, and it's taken for Max Verstappen. He gets back once again.
Verstappen goes again,
and he jumps across Hamilton, and he gets by this time. Yellow flag is out, and Carlos Sainz has come to a halt. There's the move for the McLaren. Oh, they're brushing on the exit of the corner. Under braking, sparks flying. Position maintained, they both lock up, they both go deep. George Russell wins the Austrian Grand Prix. 2nd and 3rd, separated by 0.3 of a second.
About 2 years ago, yabba dabba doo.
Well done, George. I'm happy. Well done.
Thank you so. Good team, Brazil.
His first win in Austria came as a bit of a gift after 1st and 2nd. Lando Norris and Max Verstappen got into each other, gifted him the win late, but this one was truly earned. Lights to flag victory from pole position for George Russell. And Alex, such an important win for him. He clawed back a bunch of points from Kimi Antonelli in Spain, again, aided by the DNF that Antonelli had, but here, pure pace, 10 points to him.
Yeah, and he's got to keep that momentum up and keep himself in touch in the championship if he can. Hard fought, wasn't it? Throughout, had pressure from Verstappen. I thought in your opening comments you were going to say, we told you the Red Bull would be so quick. We definitely didn't. Nobody expected it to be that fast through the race. And Russell was put under pressure continuously from Verstappen. That points loss, of course, as you go through the point system in Formula One, would have been significantly different. So that's a critical moment for George Russell's championship to hang on to the full 25.
And it's 40 points, the difference between Antonelli and Russell at the moment. Let's take a look back at the start, see how perfectly Russell played it, and a bit of those scrappy moments that you were mentioning, Juan, from Antonelli.
Yeah, you see, the start from George was good. He blocked, defended, comes out, and Antonelli in turn one decides right here, I don't want to make the corner. I have too many people in the inside that might run me over. I'll make sure I don't gain an advantage, come out in the right place. Everything is looking good. We're going into turn 3, and he goes inside to out, and right here, he blocks, when he turns the wheel, blocks, runs wide, and he puts himself in a really bad situation. I mean, terrible, no, but in a situation where it's gonna start costing him, and just a tough situation, because if you don't do that, you would have been fighting with the Ferrari, and then Max is never even in question. What's really interesting is, as we said, the Red Bull was not in question. Something that Mercedes did today, they reacted better than Red Bull in strategy, and I think that was money.
Yeah, it was key on their strategy calls today. Oh, well,
Hello.
Sorry, as I was surprised here by Toto Wolff joining us. Please jump on in here, snuck up behind me. First of all, congratulations, first and third for the team. You must be thrilled with the result.
Yeah, you know, we are constructor championship guys. That is what we all stand for, the team in Germany, the team in England. And we've made a good jump in terms of points this weekend. And then obviously doing that with a 1 and 3, bouncing back strong after Barcelona feels good.
It was a flawless execution from George. Are you thinking maybe a missed opportunity with Kimi in that VSC, a few more seconds, and you maybe could have kept him out to get that pit stop done under the safety car?
I think, you know, he's learning so fast. Maybe where the opportunity was, you know, maybe where the race was lost was full attack in the first few laps. I mean, pushing the braking points beyond everything he's done all weekend. It just didn't work out in the way it should have. But he had the quickest race times from then on, and I'm just happy to see how he came back at the end, and that's why he's the championship leader at the moment.
I think you guys have to be very proud of how you reacted today. Normally, we all talk about always how good is Red Bull in strategy, but I think today you've shown that you reacted with both cars different. You know, I think that's really, really good. How do you guys feel? Have you changed the approach, or?
Yeah, thank you. You know, we kept it cool. You know, we wanted to not be undercut, but also with Kimi, we were confident enough to stretch it to have an offset. And both times we came out 2 seconds in front of the car. That was the risk factor for us. The tires held on well. They managed it well. I'm really happy. It was one of the good weekends.
We were talking on the grid about a battle between you and Ferrari. Of course, you can never discount Max, but were you a little bit surprised when he started homing in on George in the middle stint?
Yeah, I mean, he came in strong, but then obviously the closer he got, the more difficult it was to maintain the pace also with the dirty air. And yeah, it was exciting to see whether he would catch up at the end and whether Kimi would catch up on him. So it was, Stefano told me it was good TV.
So Toto, a lot of teams have brought big upgrades recently. You guys kind of haven't, maybe a step later in your plan to bring out those updates. You've got a fairly hefty lead in the Constructors' Championship right now. How confident is this race team on making this race car even better moving forward and just increasing that championship lead?
You know, it's always the balance between next year and this one, and we are running hard on updates. We in the tunnel and on paper we have already decent upgrade, but we are not deploying it yet. You have to do it at the right time. Ferrari has been throwing things at their car massively. I guess they will be running out of cost cap soon because we couldn't do it because we simply haven't got the margin and financially. So let's see where that leads them.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on a very successful weekend, and see you next week in Silverstone.
Yeah,
best of luck. Well, you mentioned it, that we thought maybe Ferrari was going to be the team that fought Mercedes the closest and the hardest for the victory. Ariana Bravo caught up with Fred Vasseur to get his thoughts post-race.
Right, P5 and P8, I imagine that's of course not the result that you would have wanted. Can you just talk us through how that race unfolded from the pit wall and also those strategy decisions with the additional stops?
Oh, the strategy is not the issue. I think the issue is that we didn't have the pace of the Mercedes and the Verstappen, and we tried to compensate, taking risk on the strategy, but it was not a good fight. I think that
you?
It's more a matter of pace, and we pay also the poor Friday that we had, I think.
Were you surprised by how off the pace you were in comparison to the competitors?
I think compared to McLaren, who were there, compared to Mercedes and Max, it was more difficult. And we overpushed probably the first couple of laps to stay with them, and we destroy a bit everything.
Charles spoke coming into this weekend about the fact that he doesn't feel entirely confident in the car, and obviously he's had a few weekends that have been a bit tough.
Yeah,
we know that he's still fast, but after a weekend like this...
No, but he was yesterday on the first row.
Exactly.
It means that the confidence, he was there and he's there today. It's more a matter of overeating and destroying everything. It's nothing to do with the pace.
Okay, so next week we'll
on
back
one
on
lap,
it.
I hope so.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you for your time. Slightly muted response there from Fred Ressler, especially compared to when we spoke to him after qualifying. Ferrari qualifying second and third, finishing obviously further down than that. Hamilton P6, Leclerc P8. And we talked at the start of the show, guys, before the race, about the Constructors' Championship. Maybe with both cars up there, could they start chipping away at that 70-point lead? It's now 100 points. They've taken a huge blow. How disappointed do you think the team is?
Yeah, disappointed for sure. I mean, it just didn't look like it had the tyre management, firstly, and also the pace. I mean, it was a triumphant three-stopper in Barcelona for Lewis Hamilton to take the Grand Prix. That was a three-stop of necessity, almost. You know, they had to throw a set of soft tyres at it just to do something different. And when you look at the pace Leclerc had through the race, you wonder if, you know, if that was actually the best call for Hamilton, despite the fact it actually lost him a position on the road. He could have easily lost anyway. Just not fast enough today.
So Juan, you know, in Barcelona, long, fast corners, very abrasive surface, known for Deg. Here, less so, but the temperature certainly played a part. We thought that the Ferrari was better on Deg maybe than the Mercedes in Barcelona, and significantly worse here today. What do you think could be causing that?
I think they were better because they were in a three-stop. And a three-stop in Barcelona was probably the way to go. And when they stopped early, they got Mercedes to stop early and compromise their two-stop. I think if Mercedes would have stayed like what they did today, you know, as soon as Ferrari pitted, they didn't react. They stayed to their horses, to their plan, and they went, this is what we're going to do, and it worked. We're here, you know what I mean? We're here, Ferrari, we're like, okay, we're going to go early. We're going to do the three-stop. But when they went to that soft set, I'm going, oh, my God, what are they doing? It's like at that point, would have been better go hard and do a long stint on the hard and then put the soft at the end when you have less fuel load, just to generate a little less heat.
They were trying to make the most of the VSC for Hamilton, so it was a cheaper stop under the VSC, wasn't it? So
yes,
but
you still can pick
but
the
so
other
which
side.
tire you put on? I mean,
yeah.
part of the problem was they were kind of tire poor. They didn't have a lot of options, did they?
No. They didn't have a huge amount of tires to put on. They didn't have another set of mediums. So yeah, I mean, realistically, over. In a Grand Prix where you've got 71 laps and actually energetically it's quite easy to get the pass done, as you know well, if you're not fast enough, then you're just not fast enough.
No, and the problem is they stopped at the end the same lap of Piastri with higher degradation. Then they were, you know what I mean? And it was hard, like, you see the degradation, and with Charles, they put the last set with 30 laps to go. I'm going, they just put hards, and that lasted like 20 laps, and you're asking him to do 10 more?
Yeah, well, it's ultimately they gave him a free stop at the end there just to stop the pain for the last few laps. But it was great to see the cars battling each other. You talk about energy passing, but there was some just good old-fashioned racing, some hard brake moves, some outside passes through turn 6, just incredible side-by-side action.
I think the racing was really good. I think to a point sometimes people forget what happened between Max and Lewis before, and Lewis doesn't forget. When you're a driver and they run you over before, you don't forget. And if you can give it to them, you will all the way. And that's what we saw today. It was unbelievable. I was giggling watching that.
One thing about this reg set, Hinge, I don't know if you agree, but it forces drivers to kind of hang in there in places that they wouldn't normally have done so. Sometimes you get the run out of a corner, you see the guy press the boost button, and then they get to the outside of 6, and all of a sudden, because they can get far enough alongside, hanging it around the outside of 6, like we saw Lewis Hamilton did, it's realistic.
You just got so much momentum at that point that you wouldn't normally have, the closing rates in a good way that you don't normally see. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's creating some really interesting opportunities at parts of the track we normally wouldn't see. Charles Leclerc, again, further back, P8. It's been a few rounds in a row. We're not questioning his speed. No one's questioning the speed. Obviously, he started up on the front row. But, I mean, what does he need to do to just get a solid finish on the board?
I mean, I think here it didn't matter what they did. I think Ferrari didn't have the pace. I mean, they had their one lap pace, and it's a little bit of what we spoke about. Maybe their setup was too compromised for that ultimate lap time. In one lap pace, they were so good and so close to Mercedes that we thought, oh my God, we have a hell of a race. And on the other hand, we thought McLaren didn't have the pace, and McLaren had a much better pace.
It's interesting, you know, heat was the topic of the day, tires, engines, but also brakes. We heard a couple drivers talking about the pedal going long, some pulling. Explain a little bit about what Kimi Antonelli was complaining about there.
It is a massively complex brake system, and it relates to the energy recharge of the car. So a lot of the deceleration of the cars is achieved through regeneration. As you can imagine, the more energy you're putting back in, the less you're using the physical brakes, the discs and the calipers, which means maintaining their temperature on a fluid basis between the energy system and the braking system is massively complicated, particularly on a hot day like this, where you can never go over the peak of the braking temperature that the car can operate at. And I think that's why we're seeing difficulty early on in the races with open ducts.
Yeah, you start seeing glazing. That's the problem. It's as it gets so hot and they need to run maximum cooling, is when the brakes are not being used 100% because the return, getting the energy back. Once you use them, one turns on better than the other, and then you start getting that pulling feeling that it's horrible. And the other hand, like Antonelli, that soft pedal makes it so hard to commit. Like, I'm gonna go deep, and the pedal never stops moving. It's like, how far am I willing to go without, as a driver, you know that.
100%, and especially after firing it off a couple times early in the race, that would have been something that was deep in his thought. And it's a high brake energy track as well. Well, don't go anywhere, guys. We have plenty more to come here on the post-race show. We'll be right back.
The championship standings then, after round 8 of the World Championship. We begin with the drivers. Kimi Antonelli continues to lead. 40 points his advantage now. Came into the weekend 41 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's now 40 ahead of George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is down to 3rd. And then it's Oscar Piastri in 4th. And Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc. They're together on 79 points. Verstappen now up to 73 in 7th place. We then find ourselves with Oliver Behrman in 11th and Franco Colapinto in 12th place. Arvid Lindblad is ahead of Carlos Sainz. Then it's Albon, Ocon, Portoletto and Alonso. Hulkenberg has not scored so far this year. And the same applies to Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. Long way to go in the championship though, all the way to December. To the Constructors' Championship, and Mercedes are getting a sizable advantage for this stage of the campaign. 302 points for them, Ferrari on 204, McLaren struggling in 3rd, Red Bull closing that gap, and the update working well on both cars, encouraging for them. Alpine on 57, Racing Bulls taking a little nibble out of their advantage, and the others finding themselves with Haas in 7th, Williams in 8th, and then it's Audi, Aston Martin and Cadillac to get on the board. That concludes our championship standings.
Back in the paddock here, post the Austrian Grand Prix for your post-race show. And we move further down the paddock here outside of Red Bull. I mean, let's start with Max Verstappen. 2nd on the road, on the podium. That was just some vintage Verstappen action, wasn't it? Some of those overtakes were absolutely breathtaking.
Not only the overtakes, the pace, the commitment he had. At one point, I thought, this guy's going to win the bloody race.
He was close.
He was coming, and I think Red Bull tried to overplay the cards and go, we're going to have a massive tire advantage by going long, and it took them too long. There was like maybe 2-3 laps too long.
You're nodding. You think that the tire offset they shot for maybe wasn't the right call in hindsight?
It's monumental Monday morning engineering, isn't it? To sit there and say that. But when you look back at it, so the closest Verstappen got is 1.3 seconds. At that point, box to undercut.
Yeah, but he stopped before that. He stopped before George, and even stopping before George, he had more pace than George. So even when George stopped to undercut him, you go 1 lap. or 2 laps.
Yeah, they were trying to extend and make sure that they had the
Enough
tyre offset
advantage.
for the end. Unfortunately, the pace that Verstappen had in the middle stint,
Wasn't
in
there.
terms of the offset versus George, wasn't quite there at the end. And you know, they'll sit back and of course debrief about whether posting Verstappen into a potential position to lead the race. It's a long undercut anyway here. We were looking at about a second. But, you know, posting Verstappen with an opportunity to take track position would have been the better option. What would you have done, Hinch?
Again, Monday morning quarterback, right? It didn't work, so you would have probably tried something
The
else
other
and
thing.
just see it, right?
That is what Mercedes did. The first slow lap of Kimi, they brought him in.
Yeah, well, exactly. Again, Monday morning. It's easy from the air-conditioned office as we're watching the race. Much tougher from the pit wall. But it was fun to watch him going wheel to wheel with Lewis Hamilton again. Old sparring partners. Always cool to see the two of them dueling it out. Let's take a look at it. This is down into turn 4. The pass, the repass, the overcut, the undercut. This outside move, though, into 6. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this actually got discussed, didn't it? This made it all the way to the stewards room and no further investigation. But this was old sparring partners right again, wasn't it? And it's important, when, as you mentioned, to
People
not
don't
forget the
forget.
history between these two.
You know, when you're driving, you're not forgetting and you're giving it all. And you see when Max came back, he made sure you play that game, I can play that game too. But it's awesome to see. I think it was really awesome to see how they were going at it, how aggressive they were, how committed and how comfortable Lewis is attacking on this car.
It's such a great point. I mean, this is truly, it's as much as it's vintage Verstappen, it's vintage Hamilton as well. And when the two of them are in this form, it's just so much fun for us to watch.
You know
and
what?
no championship
That's
involved,
true.
so they
That's
can
so
go.
true.
They
This
can
is
go
just
to
for
broke.
pride.
Yeah.
Also, lost in all of the sort of energetic changing discussion is how well these cars are still following into the next evolution of the aerodynamic cycle as well, which is heartening, isn't it, for the racing ongoing?
It's a great point. That's a very good point. Well, we were all super impressed with Max's drive, but let's hear what the man himself had to say in the pen.
Hey Max, great drive today, and there was a point when you were within a second midway through that race. I thought you had the pace to go fight for the win. Just must be so satisfying to kind of feel like you're back in the fight again.
Yeah, it's been a while, of course, to be in that fight. And yeah, I think overall it was quite decent. Of course, maybe in hindsight we could have tried the undercut to try and jump ahead. But that's always easy to say afterwards. I think overall it's been positive for us. Of course, for me still, for half of the race, I think we had a problem on the rear of the car, which was hurting my lap time, but that's something that we'll look into.
Overall, it looks like a good step from an aero perspective, performance-wise. Is that what you feel like, and is the team doing what you hoped it would be and asked them to do?
Yeah, to be honest, it was better than expected. I think also the race pace. I honestly didn't think I would fight for the win before I jumped in the car this morning. So that was definitely very positive.
Great stuff. Thanks, Max.
So beautifully understated for Max Verstappen, very positive. Now, we've heard the thoughts from him. Let's get the thoughts from team principal Laurent Mecchi. Laurent, we've been talking about it the whole post-show. We certainly didn't expect Red Bull and Max in particular to have that kind of pace. Not just to finish up on the podium, but the genuine pace he had. Were you as surprised as us, or did you kind of know all along and you were underplaying it before the race?
No, we were not underplaying it. You know, after yesterday, the qualifying, we knew we had made a step forward with a new package, but it was difficult to put a number of it. Obviously, we got it wrong with Max in qualifying when we had the issue that led to him going off. So it was very difficult to think, you know, are we 1 tenth away, 2 tenths away, 3 tenths away? And ultimately, we only started P5. So the race was the one that was going to give us that real numbers. You know, how much did we really close the gap? We started the season more than a second away from the pace to win a race. The Miami package took us back to half a second regions. And now it's great with the package that we had today. We seem to be within the last tenths, let me put it this way, or certainly within striking range. So huge well done to everyone back in Milton Keynes, because you don't cancel 1 second of deficit without huge effort, and huge well done to Max, because what a race he has done today in extreme heat and mastering every tires and every opportunity.
Do you guys felt maybe at the end of the race for that last stop you went maybe a little too long to try to have that big offset, and he actually maybe cost you a little bit?
You know, it's something we will review. There was a couple of different opportunities in the race. We tried to ultimately build as much offset as we could. it's something we will see. You know, it could be that moment. It could be many different things in the race where, in fairness, Kimi was a bit faster than us. We think we were a bit faster than George. If you just look at when Max cleared Lewis, lap 6 or 7, you know, at that stage we were probably already 6 seconds behind George and started the race against him there. So you can, you know, if and will and should not win races, as we say. So we take the P2. It's probably where we are right now on this track, and more importantly, we take the closest gap to race win that we have had this season, and we use that to get the right energy for the next step that will be needed.
Talk me through Isaac's weekend. He looks to have been a bit more unhappy with the car this weekend. Is it something that you can remedy moving into Silverstone, or give me a feel for the problems that he's been encountering?
Well, you know, I think he actually had a strong weekend, and I'm simply referring to the gap to Max. Friday, Saturday, you know, Max was particularly strong today, but you know, yesterday was close. I think, you know, we did not have, not just Isaac, we didn't have a straightforward weekend. You know, you bring that amount of upgrades on the car. It's rarely plug and play. It was certainly not plug and play for us. So it was a struggle for Max, for Isaac, for the team to find a new sweet spot of the car. And we had a tough Friday, we had a tough Saturday morning, and eventually got closer in qualifying and now in the race.
Well, it was a wonderful rebound. Congrats on a great race, and thank Max for us for putting on such a good show.
Indeed. He's always good for that.
He's always good for that. Guys, do not go anywhere. Still plenty more to come here in the post-race show. Well, if you're watching on F1 TV, you know that we've got lots to offer, including a great series starring Lawrence Barretto called Off the Grid, where we get up close and personal with your favorite F1 personalities.
This is an extraordinary location. Espen! Hello! Thanks for having me around.
I only recently moved to this place.
Such a lovely place that you've got. You can be my tour guide today, mate.
Yep.
What a part of the world to live in.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, here we are. Oh my God.
It's like a proper moto track.
I was slightly quicker than you.
No.
Oh.
It was my last chance.
You don't make friends on track. I knew that it was going to be a pretty big story.
You can't make enemies this early in your career.
Such a great experience getting thrown in at the deep end.
So that was quite a lot for you to deal with.
I think we just asked too much of him too soon.
People wrote me off too quickly. I will always remember that one. It's quite crazy, no? Now this is what everyone really wants to see. How well can Oscar Piastri park?
I've always wanted to know how well Oscar Piastri could park. That's how you find out. You watch Off the Grid on F1 TV. Make sure you scan the QR code to get all the great programming that we have on there, from the cool down room, Palmer's analysis, Chasing the Dream, Tech Talk with Sam Collins, where we learn everything there is to know about the inner workings of these Formula One cars. You don't want to miss everything that F1 TV has to offer. Welcome back to Austria as we continue to break down the Austrian Grand Prix, and we have now moved on to McLaren. Guys, for a team that was sort of expected to be the strongest competitor to Mercedes after practice, maybe not the pace we were expecting in qualifying and certainly in the race. P4 for Piastri, P7 for Lando Norris. It's a bit of a meh day, to use a technical term.
They found some speed at the end with Piastri, which is what's confusing about McLaren's performance today. Actually, the final stint Piastri did, and he's not got a tyre offset to anyone. He was actually relatively long, Piastri's final stint, but he had really good speed at the end in the McLaren. So they'll be looking into that almost as the temperature faded away from the day they improved, but that's exactly the opposite to what we've seen so many times for them. Norris had a different race. He had a nice tyre offset and made a good move at the end, but realistically they were never in the hunt, were they, to win?
Yeah, they just didn't quite have the pace. Something missing on that McLaren right now. We caught up with Lando Norris in the pen after the race.
Hey Lando, at the start when you were having a little bit look at Max, I thought, oh, maybe you're going to have a chance to get into the race today. Obviously, it didn't quite transpire that way. What was your kind of read of how the pace of the car developed through the race?
I think okay, just everything was track position dominated today. So I lost out on lap 1 to a couple cars and lost out to the Hajar in the first round of pit stops. because they had to box Oscar first, which is the way that we do things. So yeah, unfortunate from my side, and just impossible to get back past a car that's quicker. You know, Max is P2 and almost winning the race, so the chance to beat Hajar was not possible today from my side. But otherwise, I think clearly the car in clean air was very strong. I just lost a little bit too much in the very beginning.
Do you kind of have an idea of just how much work there is to do really to haul yourself back into the fight? Red Bull obviously made a good step this weekend. Not quite sure about Ferrari, but Mercedes looks strong again. It's a lot to do, I guess, isn't there?
Yeah, again, it's just a unique track. I think if we go back to some others, again, it changes a good amount, and Ferrari are the quickest again, you know. So I think this track layout seems to maybe help us a little bit more today. The fact we beat 2 Ferraris is a good thing, but yeah, we have a lot more work to do.
Right, see you in the next one. Thanks.
A lot of work to do for McLaren. And Andrea Stella said that they feel they're about 3 months behind on the updates. He's really putting the pressure on the factory to bring more. I mean, do you think that they can catch up, or?
That's a tough one. I don't know if to catch up, but the last upgrade was quite good. And I think what Andrea's seeing is what Ferrari did, what Red Bull did, that bring, 2 upgrades really quickly. And in the other side, we see the Mercedes. The Mercedes, Toto said, oh, we got things in the pipeline, but then, we have no rush. And I think that's the kind of pace that McLaren was expecting to bring the upgrades. You know what I mean? They know the budget caps and everything. The question is, a team like Red Bull, can they still bring upgrades, or they're getting to the point where, like, oh, we finally brought the car to a decent place, and I think they're in pressure to show Max they can deliver. So from the other side, it's kind of strange because they look, as as Alex said earlier, like they can deliver. They have the speed. Look at the last run of Oscar. The pace was there. It was competitive. Is the car tricky to drive, maybe with high fuel loads? That is just a little too difficult.
I wish that we could see a bar graph of where everyone is at their cost cap, because that would make it really interesting for us to know what kind of upgrade potential there is. Alex, Racing Bulls, great qualifying. We kind of talked maybe they're a one-lap wonder and don't have the race pace. 9th and 10th, double points.
Well, it was up and down all over the place for everyone else. They stopped twice. They drove around in 9th and 10th. And they finished up at the back end of the points. But that's not bad, is it? They're the best of the rest. And they look like, for the first time in a while, the best in the rest in terms of race pace as well, which is good effort. Yeah, and comfortable with both drivers. Drivers both did a good job. But, in terms of talking about their race, relatively uneventful for them, really. They've delivered the pace that they had in qualifying and got it across the line. Just on those upgrades thing, on that upgrade thing, I think what we're finding as well this year is that teams are finding upgrades very costly in terms of wind tunnel time. They're limited on the amount of tunnel CFD time that they have. And imagine upgrading the car that has multiple modes, straight and corner, and then you've got to manage everything around that and use how much time does that cost? And that is as much of the limitation as the money is.
Yeah, no easy task for sure. Another thing that's not an easy task, winning a Grand Prix. But this guy just did it. Let's hear from George Russell.
Congratulations, George. Just how good is it to be back on top spot after that really difficult run you've had of late?
It feels great. Feels great. It's been a while since I sipped the champagne and had that sweetness. I'm proud of the resilience I've sort of had, and the people around me who've helped me through those low moments, because it was tough. When you feel like everything's going against you, performance isn't as good as you'd want. Coming back in Barcelona, having a great performance there, a bit unfortunate in the race, and then again here, I just feel myself again. But it doesn't mean that I completely understand this car and these tyres, but I know I've got it in me.
And it really felt like you had to work hard for that. So, Red Bull looked quick.
Yeah.
Your teammate was quick as well, and you couldn't really put a foot wrong today.
No, it was challenging. Verstappen was really, really impressive. He forced me to box early, but the team called it perfectly. When I saw 28 laps to go on the last stint, I was pretty worried. But then I came out and I had really strong pace, and I got to be honest, the last 5 laps I just sort of brought it home, and he caught me quite a lot. But I had to stay on it.
Thanks, congrats.
He had to stay on it, and he did, under pressure from both Max Verstappen and his teammate Kimi Antonelli. That guy will love the momentum that he's got heading into his home Grand Prix next weekend. We'll be previewing that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Formula One returns to the venue where it all began.
Welcome to Silverstone.
The British Grand Prix is go! That's heavy contact. 160,000 spectators provide the electric atmosphere. There is so much support for the British drivers.
This is the British Grand Prix.
Lando Norris wins!
This is a dream, winning at home.
What an enthralling Grand Prix.
Everyone very much looking forward to one of the most special Grand Prix on the calendar. Speaking of calendar, let's take a look at what the schedule looks like next weekend for the British Grand Prix. Of course, weekend warm-up always kicks off our weekends. You don't want to miss that as we preview everything coming up. Friday, practice 12:10, and then sprint qualifying. Of course, we're back to that sprint weekend format. Saturday, busiest day of the weekend on these formats. Sprint race and then qualifying in the afternoon for the Grand Prix. And the Formula One Pirelli British Grand Prix is going to be 3 p.m. local time. Of course, pre and post-race shows always a part of our broadcast here on F1 TV. In the next few days, make sure you enter the F1 Unlocked competition to win a VIP F1 experience in Austin and see Ed Sheeran live. Scan the QR code on your screen to make sure you enter that, and hopefully we'll see you in Austin. Well, guys, we are back here in Austria, winding down the post-race coverage, and we talk about going next week into Silverstone. I know that's one of the most exciting weekends for any British driver, but really for any fan of Formula One, isn't it?
The British Grand Prix is always brilliant. What a great track. The famous section, Copse, Maggots, Beckett's are going to challenge these short wheelbase cars. It's going to be electric to watch them qualify and race around there. I absolutely can't wait.
Well, one of the teams, it's a home race for a lot of teams, Juan. One of them that's going to be a home race for, it's going to hope for a better result. There's one of your old squads, Williams. Pretty tough weekend for them. Do you think they can bounce back next week?
Unless they start bringing upgrades, no. Everybody's bringing upgrades. And I feel to a point that at some point they need to go, you know, we're going to go all in and figure out to upgrade this and even sacrifice next year, but we need to figure out how to close that gap. And I feel bad for them because they're trying. They really put all the eggs for this year, and it hasn't really worked. But they have everything in place to be able to be an amazing and a top team. So I don't think they're that far of being really successful. So as a driver, if you're driving for them, it's one of those teams that you go, man, if I leave, I might miss this.
And that's a great question. I mean, does the team really have to step it up to retain two top drivers in Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz?
Absolutely so, you know, and there's only so long that you can say, we're going to bring a B-spec, the upgrade's coming.
It's coming.
It's, you know, and it's going to be tomorrow when this car is brilliant. This was supposed to be the year. I remember them saying it all the way through last year. They were pushing for the new regulations. They cut from the 2025 development early to push for these regulations, and it's not here. Important weekend in Silverstone for another couple of teams that are really, really close to home, though, Hench.
Exactly right. Home bases in Silverstone for both Cadillac and for Aston Martin. Tough weekend for both of those squads. Double DNF super early in the race for Cadillac, coming off the back of a huge upgrade package. It's going to be so tough for that team getting next to no data in the race from that.
Well, the hard thing is, I would assume part of their upgrade was something with the brakes. And they got to look back and say, like, ooh, we missed the boat a little bit. Do we go back, or do we go to Silverstone that is a lot lower braking energy and it's more, you know, a cooler condition? They shouldn't have any issues. But the speed of the car was better. That's, I think, the big thing for them that they're learning is, let's put new things in the car. Even if we get it wrong, we need to learn that process of building the cars, how to avoid staying until 4 in the morning building the cars. But, you know, they're doing it. And as a new team, it's really exciting to see.
In theory, based on what we know, completely different track next week in Silverstone. What do you think? You know, which team do you think will maybe perform well? I mean, obviously we think Mercedes will be up there, but can you take a stab at who might be second best?
You know, now with turn 9 at Silverstone being so fast, anyone with the straight line speed that Mercedes has looks ominous. Because realistically, you connect together the exit of turn 6, really, all the way through to Copse, Maggots, Beckett. Mercedes are going to be really, really strong. Will this upgrade from Red Bull carry over to a very different type of circuit? Is going to be an interesting point. I think McLaren will be back to winning ways or potentially challenging ways as well. That'll be interesting to see. Certainly Lando Norris thinks so, so we'll see.
But I think we have two sides. One is we saw what Max can do when he loves a place, and he's always been good here, and he's always been really good in Silverstone. It's probably the two of his best tracks, so I assume they're going to be there. Lewis, with a cooler track and all the downforce and the good handling, as you said, the high speed in Silverstone with the less downforce, those Maggot Beckett corners, they're not as comfortable when you don't have all that full downforce, and it's gonna bring the handling of the car, and that can play into Ferrari's hand a little bit.
It's going to be so much fun to see those cars through those difficult sections at Silverstone in just 1 week's time. Alex Brundle, thank you so much for all the insight. Juan Pablo Montoya, as always, and thank you all for tuning in to watch here the Austrian Grand Prix. Congrats to Mercedes and George Russell on a phenomenal win. Make sure you tune in 1 week's time for the Grand Prix at Silverstone. We'll see you then.
Next time in Formula One.
We meet again at Silverstone. Here we go again. Max Verstappen spins round. The crowds have risen for Lando Norris. Hulkenberg goes through to a podium position. What an intense British Grand Prix.